Ladies and gentlemen, listen carefully. One of the most painful forms of destruction does not always happen through physical violence. Sometimes destruction happens silently. It happens in conversations behind closed doors. It happens through manipulation. It happens through emotional control. It happens when a woman enters marriage expecting partnership, but finds herself trapped in psychological warfare. Marriage was never designed to be a prison. Marriage was designed to be a place of love, honor, growth, and protection. It was meant to be a partnership where two people help each other become greater. But when narcissism enters a marriage, the relationship becomes deeply toxic. A narcissistic husband does not simply hurt his wife once. He slowly erodes her confidence, her peace, her identity, and sometimes even her purpose. The tragedy is that many women stay trapped because the abuse is not always visible. There may be no bruises on the body, but there are scars on the soul. And today we are going to expose how this destruction happens. Not to create fear, but to create awareness, because what you fail to identify, you may accidentally tolerate. And what you tolerate too long can destroy your future. Let us begin. One of the greatest mistakes people make is believing that danger always arrives looking dangerous. Sometimes danger arrives looking like a dream come true. A narcissistic husband rarely begins the relationship with cruelty. If he did, many women would walk away immediately. Instead, he often begins with overwhelming affection, intense attention, and what appears to be deep commitment. He may call constantly, send endless compliments, make grand promises, and create the illusion that he has finally become the answer to every emotional need she has ever carried. He studies her carefully. He listens to her childhood wounds. He notices her insecurities. He pays attention to what she longs for emotionally. And then he positions himself as the solution to all of it. If she desires security, he presents himself as protection. If she desires affection, he overwhelms her with attention. If she desires stability, he promises forever. Everything feels fast. Everything feels intense. Everything feels magical. And many women mistake intensity for genuine love. But true love grows with patience. Manipulation often grows with urgency. A narcissistic husband may pressure a woman to move quickly in the relationship. He may rush commitment, push marriage conversations early, and make her feel guilty for wanting time to think. He may say things like, "If you really love me, why wait? We're meant to be together. No one will ever love you like I do." At first, this sounds romantic, but hidden beneath those statements is control. Because healthy love respects timing. Healthy love allows breathing room. Healthy love does not pressure someone into surrendering their independence. Once marriage happens or emotional dependency becomes strong, the mask often begins to fall. The affectionate man may suddenly become demanding. The supportive husband may become controlling. The loving partner may become possessive. And the wife begins to notice small changes. He questions where she goes. He asks who she talks to. He wants access to her phone. He becomes irritated when she spends time with family. He complains about her friendships. He may say, "I just want to protect our marriage. I don't trust those people around you. You should prioritize me." Again, these statements may sound reasonable on the surface, but over time, they become tools of restriction. He slowly removes her freedom while convincing her it is normal. That is how control works. It rarely arrives all at once. It arrives in small pieces. One demand here, one restriction there, one emotional guilt trip after another, until one day she wakes up and realizes she has lost pieces of herself. She stops wearing certain clothes because he disapproves. She stops speaking openly because it causes arguments. She stops seeing loved ones because it creates tension. She stops pursuing dreams because he discourages them. She begins shrinking herself to maintain peace. And this is where emotional captivity begins. A narcissistic husband often needs power because deep inside he is insecure. He may appear confident publicly, but privately he fears losing control. He fears independence in his wife because her independence reminds him that she has choices. And controlling people hate being reminded that they are not the center of someone else's universe. So he may begin making decisions without her input. He may control finances. He may dismiss her opinions. He may expect obedience instead of partnership. He may treat her voice as insignificant. Marriage becomes less about unity and more about domination. But marriage was never created to be ownership. Your spouse is not your property. Love is not possession. Commitment is not control. A healthy husband helps his wife grow. A toxic husband fears her growth. A healthy husband celebrates her voice. A toxic husband silences her voice. A healthy husband protects her confidence. A toxic husband destroys it. And many women remain trapped because they keep hoping the man from the beginning will return. They keep remembering the flowers, the kind words, the romantic gestures, the promises, but often that version of him was carefully designed to gain access, not to reveal truth. This realization can be heartbreaking because accepting the truth means confronting the fact that the relationship may have been built on manipulation. But truth is necessary for freedom. You cannot heal from what you refuse to acknowledge. And if someone constantly controls your decisions, isolates your relationships, monitors your behavior, and punishes your independence, that is not love. That is emotional domination. Love should feel safe. Love should feel respectful. Love should create peace. Love should allow growth. No woman should have to disappear in order to keep a marriage alive. No woman should have to sacrifice her identity just to avoid conflict. No woman should have to live as a prisoner in her own home. And if someone claims to love you while consistently controlling your life, understand this clearly. Their need for power is not proof of love. Their jealousy is not proof of love. Their possession is not proof of love. Real love does not cage people. Real love does not suffocate people. Real love does not erase people. Real love helps people become more of who they were created to be. And the moment a woman understands the difference between genuine love and disguised control, she takes the first step toward reclaiming her dignity, her confidence, and her future. One of the most dangerous weapons a narcissistic husband uses is emotional manipulation because it leaves wounds that cannot be easily seen by others. Physical bruises may heal. Financial losses can be recovered. But emotional manipulation attacks the mind. And when the mind is under constant attack, a person begins losing trust in their own judgment. This is where many wives begin living in silent confusion. A narcissistic husband may hurt his wife deeply, then behave as if nothing happened. He may insult her during an argument, say cruel words designed to break her confidence, and then later act calm as though she is being dramatic for feeling hurt. When she tries to address what happened, he may say things like, "You're too emotional. You always exaggerate. That never happened. You misunderstood me. You're crazy." And over time, these repeated statements begin to create self-doubt. She starts questioning her memory. She starts questioning her feelings. She starts questioning whether her pain is valid. That is exactly what manipulation is designed to do. It shifts focus away from the abuser and places blame on the victim. A narcissistic husband often refuses accountability because accountability threatens his false sense of superiority. Instead of apologizing, he redirects. Instead of changing, he blames. Instead of admitting wrongdoing, he attacks her reaction. If he lies and gets caught, he may become angry that she discovered the lie. If he cheats, he may accuse her of not trusting him enough. If he neglects his responsibilities, he may claim she expects too much. He creates chaos and then blames her for the storm. This leaves many wives mentally exhausted because they spend years trying to solve problems they did not create. Many women enter these relationships believing communication can fix everything. They think, if I explain myself better, he will understand. If I love harder, things will improve. If I become more patient, he will change. But manipulation does not respond to healthy communication because manipulation depends on confusion. The narcissistic husband often changes rules without warning. One day he praises her. The next day he criticizes everything she does. One moment he gives affection. The next moment he becomes cold and distant. This emotional inconsistency creates trauma bonds. The wife becomes addicted to trying to earn the loving version of him she saw in the beginning. She keeps hoping that if she works harder, sacrifices more, and remains loyal, that version will return permanently. But the painful truth is that manipulation often uses temporary kindness as bait. He may apologize only when he fears losing control. He may become affectionate when she begins pulling away. He may promise change without genuine transformation. And many wives remain trapped in cycles of false hope. Another powerful manipulation tactic is public image management. A narcissistic husband may appear kind, respectful, and generous in public. Friends may admire him. Family may praise him. Co-workers may respect him. This creates an even deeper prison for his wife, because when she tries to explain the abuse, people may not believe her. They say, "He seems like such a good man. I can't imagine him doing that." Or, "You're lucky to have him." These statements intensify her isolation. Now she feels trapped both inside the marriage and outside of it. No one sees what happens behind closed doors. And because narcissistic abuse often happens privately, the wife may feel invisible. Her reality becomes a lonely secret. Over time, manipulation affects decision-making. A once confident woman may struggle to make simple choices. She may ask permission for things she once handled independently. She may fear speaking honestly. She may suppress her opinions to avoid conflict. She may become emotionally numb. This is how identity slowly disappears. And when identity disappears, purpose becomes harder to pursue. But there is hope. The moment a woman begins recognizing manipulation patterns, she begins taking her power back. Truth breaks confusion. Awareness destroys deception. When she stops internalizing his lies, she begins healing. When she understands that his behavior reflects his brokenness, not her worth, freedom begins. Healing may require counseling. Healing may require boundaries. Healing may require difficult decisions. Healing may require rebuilding confidence one day at a time. But healing is possible. A woman must learn to trust her own voice again. Trust her instincts again. Trust her perception again. She must understand that disagreement does not make her difficult. Having emotions does not make her weak. Speaking truth does not make her disrespectful. And requiring respect does not make her selfish. Healthy love never forces someone to question their sanity. Healthy love does not manipulate truth. Healthy love does not create constant confusion. Real love brings clarity. Real love brings peace. Real love brings emotional safety. And every woman deserves a relationship where her heart is protected instead of constantly being wounded. One of the most dangerous things a narcissistic husband does is slowly destroy his wife's sense of self-worth. And what makes this so devastating is that it rarely happens overnight. It is usually a gradual process, small attacks repeated over time until confidence begins to collapse. In the beginning, the criticism may seem minor. He may make jokes about her appearance and call it humor. He may criticize the way she dresses. He may insult her cooking. He may mock her dreams. He may dismiss her opinions during conversations. And whenever she expresses hurt, he often responds by saying she is too emotional, too dramatic, or too sensitive. That is how emotional destruction begins. He makes disrespect appear normal. He trains her to tolerate behavior that should never be accepted. And over time, she begins adjusting herself to avoid criticism. She changes how she speaks. She changes how she dresses. She changes her behavior. She changes her dreams. Eventually, she starts shrinking herself just to keep peace inside the marriage. But peace built on self-destruction is not real peace. It is surrender. A narcissistic husband often feels threatened by a confident wife. A woman who knows her worth cannot easily be manipulated. A woman with strong self-esteem is more likely to challenge lies. A woman who understands her value is less likely to remain in toxic cycles. And because of that, some narcissistic husbands intentionally attack what makes their wives strong. If she is intelligent, he belittles her ideas. If she is successful, he minimizes her accomplishments. If she is attractive, he may compare her to other women. If she is independent, he may accuse her of being selfish. If she is compassionate, he may exploit her kindness. He studies her strengths and turns them into targets. And eventually she starts questioning everything about herself. She begins wondering, am I attractive enough? Am I smart enough? Am I a good wife? Am I the problem? That internal confusion becomes emotional torture. Because once someone controls how you see yourself, they gain dangerous influence over your life decisions. Some wives stop pursuing careers because they've been convinced they are incapable. Some stop spending time with friends because they feel embarrassed. Some stop expressing opinions because they fear conflict. Some stop dreaming because survival becomes their full-time responsibility. And perhaps the most heartbreaking part is that many women begin defending the very person who is destroying them. They say things like, "He's just stressed. He had a difficult childhood. He doesn't really mean it. He loves me deep down." But love should not constantly leave you emotionally bleeding. Love should not repeatedly humiliate you. Love should not make you hate yourself. Healthy love may correct, but it does not crush. Healthy love may challenge growth, but it does not destroy dignity. A narcissistic husband may also withhold affection as a weapon. He may become cold and distant. He may ignore her emotional needs. He may intentionally make her feel unwanted. Then suddenly, he gives small moments of affection that create false hopes. This cycle creates emotional addiction. She starts chasing tiny moments of kindness while ignoring repeated patterns of abuse. She becomes desperate for approval from someone committed to keeping her insecure. That cycle is exhausting. And over time, anxiety becomes normal. Depression becomes normal. Fear becomes normal. Low self-esteem becomes normal. But normal does not mean healthy. Many women lose years trying to prove their worth to someone who has already decided to devalue them. And here is the truth many need to hear. Your worth is not determined by someone else's inability to appreciate you. Your value does not decrease because someone fails to recognize it. A diamond remains valuable even when buried in dirt. And many women have been buried under criticism, manipulation, rejection, and emotional abuse for so long that they forget who they truly are. But buried is not destroyed. Silenced is not erased. Broken confidence can be rebuilt. A woman must begin speaking truth over herself again. She must reconnect with people who genuinely support her growth. She must stop measuring herself through the eyes of someone committed to tearing her down. She must remember the talents, intelligence, beauty, purpose, and strength she possessed before the relationship tried to redefine her identity. And sometimes healing begins with one powerful decision: refusing to believe the lies anymore. You are not worthless. You are not weak. You are not unlovable. You are not a failure. And you do not need someone else's approval to validate your existence. The moment a woman begins rebuilding her self-worth, the narcissistic husband often feels threatened because his greatest weapon is losing power. Why? Because healed people become harder to control. Confident people become harder to manipulate. And people who know their worth stop begging for respect they should have received freely. Never allow someone's broken character to convince you that you are broken. You were created with dignity. You were created with purpose. You were created with value. And no narcissistic husband has the authority to take that from you.